Sorry, what? Mark? Oh no, I don't need a mark. Everybody hear me? Yeah, you're all right. Yeah. Well, welcome to our Spot Football Club. A warm welcome to everybody tonight, and a special welcome to our founder member, John Heath, who will be saying a few words. And Gary, who's, I didn't realise until we're doing the 50th, but you've been president for 30 years. So, John, would you like to come up and just say a few words about when it all started? And
All right.
Just shake the leg.
John's not playing this week.
It's about finished. Well, I've got to say a few words. In fact, I could talk to you all night because I've got so many memories of this place. You wouldn't believe it. There's a book here, there's a film here, and there's a soap here, and there's a comedy here, because everything went on here right from the very word go. But tonight, I'd say, first of all, I'd like to thank Bob for being a founder member with me. I tricked him into it when he was just 17 years of age, and he decided to join me alongside starting the club. And of course, it's been one big adventure for everybody that's been involved, I think, ever since, because we were the first club to really show the enthusiasm, to really get going and make this a real big event for people and youngsters for the future, and we can see now a magnificent effect it's had. But the thing that I want to just say to is one or two people that Gary will know first of all. And the first president of this club was called Agnes Duncan. Now, the older members here would know that Johnny Duncan was the manager here when Leicester went to the final in 1948-49. And his wife decided to be our first president. So she was more than welcome, and she was a very lovely person to have around. And of course, a thank you to my own father, Sidney Heath, because he put the first 500 quid into the kitty to be able to get seeding done on Dilsett Avenue. So without him, we should be playing in mud. So we decided that was a good venture that my father was involved in. And then really, it goes on there. And one person I'd like to mention, that I'm sure Gary will have this on his mind, was his grandpa, his granddad. So many people, of course, in those days I was in the market, and his granddad, we've got a wonderful market store, and he was an absolute real gentleman. The way he dressed, the way and everything about him, his attitude, the whole demeanour. And I've got to say, this is a production of what his granddad was. So I'd like to say a full welcome for his granddad for what he did achieve with Gary, and I'm sure his mum and dad as well, but his granddad had a magnificent influence because he believed in him like I did, that he was going to be a great footballer. And I mean that sincerely. We stood there many, many days talking about his progress. But just finally, because I know I've got a few minutes, because I know he's got a lot going on, the question comes that Don Reevy was the vice president and opened the ground in 1974. And on October the 5th that year, of course, we got a side which was under 11s, which a man called Jim Riley, who needs to be noticed because unfortunately Jim's passed away now. But he was for the under 11s, can you remember him, Gary?
Jim, yeah, of course.
And he had a West Leicester side, and in that side, believe it or not, there were 5 players that signed for Leicester City. And I remember Don Reevy sitting next to me that night, and he said, "You've got some great footballers here." And it was the first night that he had had a full set of kit, England kit made. So Aylestone Park were the first people to be in the England kit that he designed for the England squad. So it was quite a big night, and of course we won the game, thank goodness. But the fact was, 5 players. Neville Hamilton passed away, poor fella. Gary, of course, and of course we had other people like Duffy and Parsons, and people of this calibre that were all playing at that time. So it was a great team, and it went on from there. So we've had all these things from the beginning, giving the right feeling to the club. So I'd say no more now because I've said my little piece, but I will say this, that I think this is the beginning of this club. And the biggest question Bob's going to have to ask himself when it's time to throw his hat in like I've done is who is he going to pass it on to? Because that's going to be the most important thing if I'm around, but what is he going to do and who is he going to pick? Because that's going to be the real vital point for the future. I mean, Gary might be interested, we don't know. I thought about mentioning it, but however, the very last thing is I want to give a thank you to my family, my wife, my daughter, and all the family and all the ladies that have been team managers' wives that have been associated with this club, because not once have they been recognised. And I think the men of this area today should give a real good clap for all those women that have had to put up with men during the football. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.
I knew we should have got together, John. You've just took off my speech.
There's a bit more paper, isn't it?
Well, tonight celebrates 50 years. Many of you have been involved in different times with this club. But one thing that you can celebrate is with the programme, with the history outside, is your contribution towards making this club what it is. Because without you, this club wouldn't be here. What the club has achieved since 1968 by everyone connected with grassroots football is, unsurprisingly, this club is regarded as a model club for others to emulate. From the thousands of young players that the club has encouraged, the parents, the families, our community inclusion programmes, and the hundreds of visiting teams that each year enjoy these fantastic facilities as our guests. None of this would have been possible without the endeavours of all our volunteers and sponsors, and everyone here tonight could be proud of their involvement with the club and share in its achievements. A couple of special thank yous tonight, obviously to Gary for making the time, because he's driven up from London and he's going to drive back tonight. Luke from Knightsbridge, who's responsible for the programme. What a great programme that is. I mean, it's superb, and I'm sure when Gary gets his copy, he'll appreciate the amount of work. Keith and Maria from Fisher Future Heat for all the new signage. Makes it look like a stadium now. Thank you for that. We've valued Gary's support over the years, and despite his busy schedule, he's always been able to help on the big occasions. In recognition of this, we've been able to obtain the permission of the Leicester City Council to name the building the Gary Lineker Pavilion. Gary, if you would like to accompany me.
Absolutely.
No expense for this. And Paul, I'm rather hoping that somebody hasn't, these jokers haven't taken the plaque down.
Trust me, at my age, everything is fine.
Why am I putting it?
Of course. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, John. I'm not sure I could take over from you. No one could follow you, that's for sure. I think I'd sooner flog fish. I think I'd probably do that. What an honour. I've never been called a pavilion. I've been called a lot of things, particularly on Twitter. But pavilion, I'll take that. It's great. And it's lovely to be back. It's been a long time. So many memories. And I'll tell you how long it is. There was a young kid out there. He said to me, "My granddad used to play with you." It makes you feel old. But it was a great place to play football. And the weird thing is, and I mean this most sincerely, when I played here, we had a lot of success here. We had such a good side. As John said, we had so many players in the young Leicester sides that went through. to apprentice. I was far from the best player in our team, let alone this club. And that's true. I mean, I was about 4 foot tall, and I had so many good memories of winning games, but I never really thought I'd go on to be a top professional footballer. I always thought I had more chance at cricket, to be perfectly honest. But it kind of happened for me, and it happened for me because this club is so special. I had so many memories, lots of, we had such a good side. But the one thing that perhaps sticks in my mind more than anything, bizarrely, was actually quite a traumatic experience that for some inexplicable reason, I swore at a referee after he gave me offside about 4 times. And my dad marched on the pitch and gave me an absolute bollocking. And he said, if you ever do that again, you will not play football any longer. And I was kind of trembling and massively embarrassed in front of all my teammates that my dad would do that. But perhaps it had some sort of impact, because obviously from there on in I didn't swear at referees and never got a yellow card, and instead tried to focus on scoring a few goals. Gladly I did grow eventually when I was about 17, and had a career that actually, it staggered me really. It's amazing what's happened to me. I've often asked myself why me, but it's not just one of the reasons why me is because of this football club. And I've got so many special memories here, so many special people, John and Bob. I mean, these are the kind of people that make football the game it is, and make youngsters enjoy the game. And it's so important for football in this country to continue to support clubs like this. It's not just about the academies at the big clubs, because we all know that they'll attract certain players and bring them in to the fold, but we have to cast the net much wider than that. And obviously I think the Football Association want to do that. It's kind of, we have very unusual circumstances in this country where we have about 3 governing bodies, and they're obviously fighting over each other and stuff. But I think, one of the reasons they were trying to sell Wembley was so that they could improve pitches and more 3G pitches. It's great to see the surface here. That's what we need all around the country, for our kids to be able to play on in decent conditions. And the fact that we are improving in that sense is one of the reasons that we now are developing so many great young English footballers in this country. So the future's bright, and the future's bright because of football clubs like this. And that's why it's great to come back. So, and thanks for all coming along and supporting the occasion.
Thank you very much.
I feel privileged
My last bit, very, very briefly, we like to recognise certain members who've really gone that extra mile with Aylestone Park Football Club. We have the Life Members Board, which, to be perfectly honest with you, it seems to be the place to be. Certainly, I've had a few people buy me a pint to try and get on it, but it's a lot more expensive than that. So we've, to celebrate tonight, we've introduced 11 new Life members, and I just go through them because I think it's worth a mention. Perry Smith, Pez, you're aware of you, Pez, over there, Pez. Manager, took his team through all the age groups, did the treble last year, has left the club due to house move, but we're hoping to get him back. We're trying to get him up there. Taj Loyal, current manager of the under-14s. Also did the treble last year, previously ran from under-8 to under-16 and then dropped down to start again. What a mug. Been at the club for 10 years. Brandon Lewis ran the team with Taj from under-8s to under-16s, and now he runs the under-9s. Leon Collins. Played for the club at under-9 through to senior men's teams, is now the assistant manager under-13, and his team did the double last year.
What a man.
Do you know he'd have to put it. Adam Hart. Another former player from under-9 right through to the senior section before moving on to play at a higher level. Returned to the club 3 years ago and now runs the under-15 Saturday team, who are currently top of the Saturday League. Carl Robinson played for the club at under 8 through to under 15s, manages the under 9 94 team and also secretary of the 8 mini soccer teams. Stuart Bond, he has been the club steward for the past 8 years, running the bars and social facilities. Andy Hone, previous manager, taking the team from under 10 to under 18. He also held the post of General Secretary for several years. Jeff Limbert, a senior member of the men's section, built the first spectator stand. Built the first spectator stand on the old ground and managed the reserves for several years. Glen Mcnulty, former player, went on to manage the first team for several years, gaining promotion to the Senior League and raising funds to upgrade the main pitch. Has travelled from Spain to come here tonight. And finally, Mick Allard, a stalwart of the senior section, Mr. Do Anything. He is asked, an ever-present supporter. And finally, on a personal note, I would like to thank all members of Aylestone Park Football Club, both past and present, who have made my job so entertaining over the past 50 years. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you very much. Got one little gift, and you might have seen this or you might not. Gary's father, a long time ago, sponsored a team up here. When I asked him what he wanted on the front of the shirts, he put Lineker's fruits. I don't know whether you get away with that now, but we'd like to present.
He's always been honest.
Very good. Got a few questions from if you take the time to answer them, sure. Honestly.
Evening, everybody. Yeah, a few questions. A lot of these have come from the younger members of the club. Some of them are about yourself, some are topical. Start with the easy ones, shall we? This is from one of the younger members of the club. If you were still playing today, how much would you be worth?
Oh, crikey. I don't know. Well, in terms of transfer fee, I suppose I'd be quite a hefty sum. I don't know. I was kind of all right in my peak, so I guess I'm,
30 million or?
I think you can add another zero. But, I don't know. I suppose. Yeah. What's the top strikers going for? Yeah. I mean, well, I was twice the player. I had a similar sort of touch, though.
Okay then, another one from the younger member of the club. If you could go back and give advice to a 10-year-old Gary Lineker, what would it be? Yeah, don't swear at the ref next time. That's a great question, because it kind of all happened for me. So, in many ways, I'd probably tell him that to do what you did, and that was really actually, and this is sincerely and honestly, is to give yourself the best chance to succeed, because it's such a competitive world, football. It's so difficult to make it to the top, and however good you seem as a young kid, and we all know loads of brilliant young kids, and you think he's going to make it, and they never really do, or he's the best player in our school, and he's incredible, but he eventually played in the third division or so things like that. So, but I think what perhaps separates, I mean, obviously you're given a certain amount of talent that comes from somewhere, who knows where, a gift. But after that, there's so many more things you need, and one of those things is luck. But if I was given advice, it would be pretty much what I did, and that was forsake lots of things in life at that stage when you're young, and just give it everything. And I think that's what the best players do. That's what they just, they live properly, they think about the game, it becomes everything, they're totally professional, and give yourself the best chance to succeed. And then if you don't, at least you've given it your best shot. And that's what I would probably say to youngsters now. And enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
That's really important, is to enjoy it, because you'll reach your level, whatever that may be. So give it your best shot, reach your level, enjoy the game, because it's wonderful.
Okay, thank you. Right, and another one about yourself, Gary. What time, on a Saturday, what time does a typical match of the day programme for you start?
I get a train up in the morning it's now in Manchester, Salford. It's been there for 7 years, so I live in London, but I get the train up on Saturday. I get there early afternoon, usually about half time of the early match, and then we sit down at 3 o'clock. We have a big bank of screens with all the games on, and each pundit was allocated a match. One of them will do the early kick-off, one of them will do one at 3 o'clock, another at 3 o'clock. Me and the editor will be just flicking around looking for stuff that perhaps in the other games that are not highlighted, and then we'll all watch the late games. So we've probably got 4 games covered properly. Around 5 o'clock I'll sit down and sit with the editor, we'll work out the running order, we'll write the script. We have about an hour free, then at 9 o'clock go down and get ready. I rehearse, the pundits are working out their analysis. I get down about 9:30 into the studio, sit, rehearse, read through my links, etc. And we do it live. It's live every week. A lot of people don't realise that. And it's usually 10:30 till about midnight. During each match that is actually being showed, whilst you're watching that at home, we're discussing what we're going to talk about. They look at their analysis, they practice it during the game, so we don't actually watch that highlights package. We're busy, because they've got specific analysis. So I stand there and I sit there and say, well, how can I get you into that? I'll ask you this. Is that okay? Yes, blah, blah, blah. And then at midnight, we all get our makeup off and run off home. I get a car home, actually. So I get home normally about 3:30 in the morning.
On the analysis, when you see all the players all highlighted and they've got 4 defenders doing this, is that the pundits' choice how that's done? Or
yeah,
they
do it. No, they do it. No,
other
they're
people?
the games that they specifically watch, they will do the entirety of the analysis. They will work something out and look at an aspect of the game. The other games around, obviously we haven't got time after we watch to watch the whole of the match. So each match has an editor, and the editors of those matches, and also the commentators that are at the games, will be involved in discussion about is there anything we've missed? Is there anything we don't? And then it'd be a great goal or a dodgy decision or a bad tackle or something. So obviously can't do every game with intense analysis. So, but that's generally how it works. But they are in charge of their own analysis, very much so. They go in a room with a guy and they say, I want that, can you put an arrow there, can you do this and that and the other.
Another one about yourself. Was winning the Golden Boot in the 1986 World Cup your highest points in your professional career? If not, what was it?
I suppose in many ways it was on an individual basis, but obviously it's a team game. Now, I didn't win as many trophies as we got the idea, that's for sure. They were fairly scarce. But
shipped all them in today.
So there's no question that changed my life. That hat-trick against Poland. Before that, I'd gone 6 games with England without scoring. So I was, Bobby Robson could easily have left me out, but stuck with me, and thankfully that was the right decision. I scored 3, and then a couple more, and then one. And suddenly I won the Golden Boot, and my life changed. But perhaps one specific moment would be winning the FA Cup. Because I didn't win a league title, I was second 4 times, once with Everton and 3 times with Barcelona against a very strong Real Madrid team. So winning the FA Cup was special. The Spanish Cup was good too, and the European Cup Winners' Cup was great. But yeah, there was something about the FA Cup, particularly in my time. And obviously it's not the only circus in town like it used to be, but it was back then. It was special. So it's probably that.
Okay. And again, a little bit about yourself. How angry were you when you were substituted by Graham Taylor in your final?
I don't do do, Anchor.
Did you ever forgive Graham?
I think he did me a favour. If the truth be told, he made me a martyr. And I'm not joking in many ways. At the time, obviously, I kind of knew it was going to happen as well. I don't know why I had a feeling, but it wasn't as miffed. I always felt when I played that I would get the goal. So now Graham's a good guy. Graham was he's a really decent human being. He had to make decisions, and that one kind of rebounded on him because, if Alan Smith had come on and nodded one in, nobody would have thought anything about it, and that's the nature of management. People say went off with Hunt because I didn't actually trying to throw underarm the armband to another player. I wasn't like flinging it down like that, but obviously I was a bit upset because I always felt I could score another goal. But when I talk about the martyr thing, in many ways, it was a pretty weak team in Euro '92. It was probably the weakest England team for certainly in my career and subsequently for quite a time. A lot of great players are coming to the end of the career. Brian Robson, Chris Waddle, Peter Beardsley was left out. Gazza was injured, and so we went. And John Barnes. So we were short, and the team were pretty awful. Actually, we didn't really play any football. And I probably wouldn't have scored if I'd have stayed on, and I'd have got pilloried with the rest of the team. But actually, everyone in the end was going, well, I should have kept, and it became a different. Obviously, I only thought about that years later. But Graham was a good guy. The job was, he came in at a difficult stage as well after Bobby Robson and with a few great players going. But he had a tough time. He had a tough time in England, but which was a shame because he was a good man.
Okay, just a couple of quick ones. And a nice easy one this will be. Who's going to win this season's Premier League?
I've kind of gone with Liverpool, so this. Who do you want me to say? I think it's going to be really, really tight, which I think is great for the competition. It's great for us in television. It's great, for the media. I'll stick with Liverpool, but if there's one team you wouldn't want chasing you, it's obviously Tottenham. Now that would be great, but
What club did you feel the most pressure when playing at, and which one the least pressure?
I weirdly never felt pressure. Honestly, I know it's a strange thing, but I think part of the reason that I had the career that I had was that I was calm. I was always calm, and I was calm in front of goal, and even if it was a big game, big penalty, or what, you still miss sometimes. But so I didn't really feel pressure. I struggled in like pre-season games that didn't matter that much. But I didn't really feel it. And I had great experiences at all the clubs I played. Playing for my hometown club Leicester was brilliant. Was incredible, and obviously the club I've supported ever since. Then going to Everton. Everton was the best team I ever played for, best club side. They were unbelievably strong. We should have won the double and ended up didn't win anything. I only had one season. Then Barcelona playing there is just incredible. It's bonkers, but it was just a superb experience playing at one of the biggest clubs in the world. And then at Tottenham, I had fun times when the FA Cup. It was great. Won't bother mentioning Grand Passaic much, but that'd have been better if we had 11. But it was great. But do you know what? Our best sporting moment ever? It doesn't even involve me. That's when Leicester won the league. All the experience I've had, that was the least. That was surreal. But it was just so magical. I got 3 of my sons who I've managed. And I used to feel guilty by making them. I didn't make them, but they became massive Leicester City supporters. My eldest George is a United fan. He's always been contrary, a little git. But the other 3 support Leicester, and going through that season with them, it was just magical. And then and towards the end of the season, they kept playing on Sunday afternoons, didn't they? Yeah. And it was like 1-0, and it was purgatory, wasn't it? Watching each game, it was like so tense. Watching the boys pulling their hair out. But that bonding thing was incredible. And then And then it came that day that when Tottenham obviously went to Chelsea and they went 2-up, and you thought it's still going to go wrong. And I suppose the closer it got, the more terrifying it came in case it never happened. And then when it actually did, I mean, we were just in our front room and we were all hugging and crying, and it was the best sporting moment in my life. And despite all the things that I've actually done on the pitch, that was much better.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Right, one final question, one word answer this will be, I'm sure it'll be. It's from one of the younger members again. We hear that you're a very good cook. What do you like to cook the most?
It's my new passion, actually. I don't have a preference. Fish and chips, obviously, John. Fish, can't beat it. Nice sea bass. Beautiful.
I can teach you a bit about the old fish and chips.
I would hope so.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that, Gary.
pleasure.
Just got a couple of little things that we'd like you to do, please. A couple of presentations.
Want to show me what a trophy looks like?
He'd like to present this. This is presented to John as a founder.
Come on, John. I'm sorry, you've got to get on the feet.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And obviously last but not least, to Mr. Robert Stretton, MBE.
Are you more than 50, are you?
Thanks, Gary.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Right.
If ever I'm busy on Saturday night, you've got
Yeah,
Talking to a lot of people about Gary, he's really made the effort tonight. He's driven up from London. Didn't have to do it,
I was
but
driven
he
up.
wanted.
I've got a bad toe.
Didn't hesitate at all when we said, will you come up and do it for the 50th, as he has done for all the other special events of the club. So can we give it up for Gary Lineker?
And thanks for this. Obviously, my dad's on this picture. He passed away about 18 months
Yes,
ago.
I know.
So that
Yeah,
means a
well-
lot. That's great. Thank you.
Is John with you tonight?
Holmesy, no, he couldn't come.
No.
No, he couldn't come. All right. Someone's got a question.
Who's got a question?
Who's got what's? Oh,
Rocco.
Rocco. Go on then.
Considering it's our 50th anniversary, I was wondering if you could mention us on Match of the Day.
Do you know what? I'd love to do that, but I can't. It's not my fault. It's in the guideline. It sets a precedent, right? Because everyone and it's the same when we have things with poorly children and stuff. It's really difficult. We can't do. But what I will do, I'll definitely put you on Instagram and my Twitter. How about that?